Paper. Hello and welcome to NewsClick. Today, the Union Finance Minister announced the budget for 2023-2024. There's some provisions in it for the middle class and there's some provisions in it for other sections of society, but overall, it's being seen as a pre-election budget. We have with us Paranjoy Guha Thakurta, who's a well-known economic journalist and commentator. Let's go straight over to him. Paranjoy, welcome.
Thank you so much, Pragya.
Paranjoy, you told me just a while back that it's a pre-election budget. Can you tell me why you got that feeling?
The tone, the tenor, the manner in which Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has repeated various welfare schemes of the government, and the fact that 5 years ago,
Right.
before the 2019 general elections, this year too, significant, I should say, important concessions have been given to the middle classes. And the middle classes, as you know, they are very influential. They shout and
Right.
scream a lot.
Right.
So I would say the most significant aspect of the budget is the concessions given, income tax concessions that have been given to the middle class taxpayers.
Can you give an idea of how much of a concession, what percentage?
When it comes to actual money,
Right.
it's not less than 10,000 per person,
Okay.
but it could go up, depending on various other things. But to summarize it, earlier there were two schemes the government had. There was an old scheme, and in 2020, a new scheme was announced.
Right.
And what has happened is the government is now nudging income tax payers to move to the new scheme. How and why? Because under the new scheme, the exemption was about rupees 500,000 per person per annum.
Right.
That has now gone up to 7 lakhs. Essentially, those under the new scheme would therefore benefit by not less than 10%. It's actually a little more than that. It's closer to about 12,000. So this is really a very, very important, incentive given to middle class taxpayers. Several lakh people would benefit for it. And she has changed the personal income tax slabs. You see, earlier, the 2020 scheme, the new scheme that Nirmala
Right.
Sitharaman had announced, there were 6 income tax slabs starting from 2.5 lakhs.
Okay.
And now there's a new scheme, and that has reduced the number of slabs from 5, and it's increasing the tax limit to about 3 lakhs. So those earning up to 3 lakh rupees a taxable income per annum doesn't have to pay any tax. Those earning between 3 and 6 lakhs pay 5%,
Right.
then 6 to 9 lakhs, 10%, 9 to 12 lakh, 15%, 12 to 15 lakh, 20%, and those above 15 lakhs pay 30%. So this will provide a tax. The middle class are the income taxpayers, they will benefit. So an individual with an annual income of say 9 lakh rupees would now be required to pay only 45,000. And this is a reduction of about 25% from the earlier requirement where she or he would have to pay about 60,000.
Okay.
And if you move up, that's about 5% of his or her income. And if you move up the slabs, those with an taxable annual income of 15 lakh rupees would now be required to pay 1.5 lakhs, which is 10% of the income, which is a reduction of about 20% from the existing liability, which was about 1,87,500.
Okay.
So I'm just reading out from her speech to highlight these points. And the government is going to lose about 37,000 crore rupees, roughly 37,000 crore rupees from the concessions given in direct taxes. And this is largely going to be the main concession that has been given.
Right, Paranjoy. They always say that a budget is a time to balance different expectations. This middle class demand, of course, was there, but there were also a lot of other demands which people were making, especially from the working class. She sort of said in her speech that this will help people recover from the COVID pandemic. Is there something which actually some government contribution which is enhanced for, say, education, for health? Have we looked at some of those details?
I haven't yet had a chance to look at all the numbers in great detail. But as always, there's a huge difference with what is said in the budget speech, the tone and the tenor of it, and when you start looking at the fine print of the budget. So she has waxed eloquent, the first budget of Amrit Kal. She's talked about how there has to be inclusion with growth and how the farmer is going to be benefited, how those belonging to other backward classes, those belonging to the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes are all going to be benefited. But when you start looking at the fine print, the story is a little different. I haven't had a chance to go through it in great detail. For instance, one point that has been pointed out, see the subsidies that are paid by the central government, the union government. Now, this is the single biggest expenditure of the central government after interest payments.
You mean the fertilizer and the
It is on food, on fertilizer and on petroleum.
Right.
That includes like cooking gas and kerosene and so on and so forth. Now, the budget estimate for 23-24 financial year is 3.74 lakh crores. Interestingly, this is lower than the revised estimate for the current financial year, which ends on the 31st of March of 2023. Now, this is an interesting analogy.
Absolutely.
You are actually saying you have spent more, but next year you're going to spend less. Yet, you talk about the farmer, you talk about inclusiveness, you talk about, how much you're helping the weaker sections of people. And I must tell you another omission.
Right.
There's a lot of talk about proposals to create jobs. But there are two major issues on which the silence of the finance minister is deafening, as they say. One is on inflation and the other is on unemployment.
She doesn't mention these two issues at all?
No, she says these schemes will create so many jobs. We are hopeful so many jobs will be created by medium and micro, small and medium enterprises, and these various schemes, including the emergency credit guarantee scheme, the production linked incentive scheme, will all add jobs. That's all she's saying. But she's not pointing out that unemployment by the government's own figures is arguably at its highest level in 45 years. She talks about the international economic recession, but she doesn't mention anything about inflation.
Another thing, Paranjoy, it's hard to list them all, but Mishti, PM Pranam, I mean, there is various terminologies. Govardhan, and then, there were these...
No, I mean, people should know what this is all about, okay? PM Pranam. Prime Minister Program for Restoration, Awareness, Nourishment and Amelioration of Mother Earth. Govardhan. Galvanizing Organic Bio-Agro Resources Dhan scheme.
Okay. What does this mean?
These are nice acronyms. The Prime Minister and this government loves acronyms. Let's look at Mishti. Mangrove Initiative for Shoreline Habitats and Tangible Incomes. This is...
That's actually she said that we have had great successes in afforestation, which I don't know if the figures will bear that out.
This government specializes in optics, in trying to say, look, this is what we are doing, and schemes with fancy acronyms. Very often, more often than not, many of these schemes are recycled old schemes with a new name. It's a bit like the Mughal Gardens, the name of the Mughal Gardens being changed in Rashtrapati Bhavan. So this is really what this budget is all about. It's aimed at, it's relatively short budget by Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman's own standards, just around 1.5 hours. But it's all about how much we are doing for the poor, how much we are doing for the needy, and it talks about. It reiterates old schemes. The most famous the biggest of those schemes is the free food scheme. This was already announced, but it has been repeated how this government is providing free food to about 80 crore plus persons
which it is not seeing as actually a sort of failure hidden,
It's the government is going to spend about 2 lakh crores on this, and it's all going to be borne by the central government.
Right.
But, this scheme to supply free food grain is now going to go right through the calendar year from the 1st of January 2023. For all you know, in the run-up to the next elections, that scheme might be extended. But you are right. The very fact that the government, we are a country of 140 crore people, that 80 crore people are having to be provided subsidized food. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying bad. I'm saying you should provide it. But it also reflects what a long way we have to go to ensure food security,
industrial growth,
for the majority of the people of this country, vast majority. 80 crore out of 140 crores is huge.
Yeah. Paranjoy, anything else that you think really stood out so far? We're going to speak at 7:30 in the evening again with our panel. You'll be...
more of how these welfare schemes, I think the most significant of the welfare schemes that have gone up is the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, the housing scheme. This outlay has gone up by 66%. That's two-thirds to about 79,000. So clearly, that's really where a lot of money is going to be spent, and the schemes for the primitive vulnerable tribal groups, their development mission, the renaming of millets, coarse grains and millets, into Shri Anna, correct? Bajra, Jawar, etc. And how India is the biggest producer, second biggest exporter, how we are going to become the biggest in the world. But it's interesting that the finance minister talks about the global recession and how India, he doesn't say it in so many words, but India cannot be insulated from global recession. But she keeps saying, no, we'll be better off than the rest of the world. Our growth will be higher than all major economies. So, there's always this attempt to paint the rosier side of the picture and downplay, if not ignore completely, the negative aspects. But that's the job of the finance minister.
Yeah, but it's
we pay her to be optimistic, I suppose.
I guess so. So, Paranjoy, also I did a quick check of the number of the most vulnerable tribal groups in India. That's 26 lakh or so people in the 1991 census and 2011 census. A pretty small population of very vulnerable people. But, there is a way in which this government knows how to grab the headlines, right?
That's correct. So the optics is very important.
All
the
right.
amount, the extra amount you're going to spend on them is not that much by the central government standards. It says 15,000 crore over the next 3 years. So let's see, it's 5,000 per year. But then you say you're going to saturate these areas. The households are going to get everything, all the facilities, basically.
Each family, each area.
That's right. So optics. Okay. And the run-up to the election seems to matter most.
Let's see what happens next year. Thank you so much
for
joining us,
Pragya.
Paranjoy.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us, and do watch our live show at 7:30 today.